So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on to Amy. So Amy, it's been several years since you've been a speaker for us, and I know there's been just a ton of changes to both Porter Hills and also the addition of Brio Living Services. So can you start by sharing some of the things that you're most excited about that have changed?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. So first of all, let's start with our name. Probably most of you are familiar or were familiar with Porter Hills. We've been in Grand Rapids for 53 years, actually. 5 years ago, the Grand Rapids Porter Hills organization affiliated with United Methodist Retirement Communities, which is based in Chelsea, Michigan, which is just outside of Ann Arbor. So the two organizations who had very similar missions came together as one organization to serve older adults across the entire state. Then 3 years ago, the organization we changed our name to encompass both United Methodist Retirement Communities and Porter Hills, and together we are now Brio Living Services. Brio is actually a Latin word, which means vitality. But our mission is the same, which is to serve older adults for the rest of your lives and age with grace, and to make that happen. So things that I'm really excited about, besides the affiliation, which has just made us a much stronger organization and is allowing us to serve many more older adults, because of that affiliation, we are now able to do a lot of things on our campuses that for several years we were not able to do. So we have just finished a $9 million renovation project on the Porter Hills Village campus. So we've completely renovated all of our common areas and added new spaces, and it desperately needed the renovations. If any of you came to see Porter Hills years ago and you haven't been back, I would encourage you to come and see the changes because they are magnificent. The other thing that I'm excited about is last year it was announced that we were doing an expansion on the Porter Hills Village campus. Some of you maybe have seen or received invitations talking about the ravines. So we are building 26 new independent living apartments on the Porter Hills Village campus. And that expansion is part of a master plan which includes the second phase of that expansion to build new assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing on the Porter Hills Village campus. Again, very much needed. So we're excited that things are started. Construction now has started on the new apartments, and hopefully next year we'll begin construction on the higher levels of care.
That's great. So if you can tell us, Amy, what do you think are some of the biggest advantages of moving into a life care community, and a short explanation about that basic financial model and kind of how it works?
So as far as the main benefit to moving to a life plan community, which is really the newest term for a continuing care community, the way I can best describe that is through my own personal experience as an adult daughter. My parents, actually when they were in their early 70s, made the decision to move to a CCRC. In fact, they moved to Freedom Village. My parents lived in Holland, Zeeland, Holland area, and they decided to move to Freedom Village. And at the time, of course, I was working in this industry, so I was thrilled that they were doing that. But I had no idea what the future was going to hold for them. And as it turned out, not that long after they moved into Freedom Village, we started to notice changes in my mother with her memory. And it became evident that she had dementia. The other change that happened was that my father was diagnosed with cancer. So at that point, they were still able to stay in their independent living apartment, but for both of my parents, those things progressed, as they do. As an adult daughter, as I watched that happen, of course I was very concerned about my parents, but what I wasn't worried about was where are either one of them going to have to go as these things progress. because I knew they could stay right at Freedom Village. So time went on. My father passed away from his cancer, and the day he passed away, I realized my mother could not stay in that independent living apartment alone. That was not going to work. My dad was holding things together more than I even realized, as does happen many times in the situation. Again, I didn't have to panic about where is mom going to go. I'm grieving the loss of my dad, my brothers and I were. Our mother was much farther along on the dementia journey than we realized as a family. But all I had to do was go talk to the folks at Freedom Village who already knew what was happening with my mom, probably more than I did, and she was able to move into assisted living. That was good for a couple of years, and then the team came to us as a family and said, your mother really needs to move into memory care. Again, I didn't have to run all over town trying to figure out where is she going to go. She moved into Freedom Village memory care and was there for about a year before she passed away. And so what I can say to all of you is that making a decision, whether it's to come to Porter Hills Village, whether it's to go to Freedom Village, wherever it is, you making that decision is the best gift that you could give your children. And also, you want to make that decision on your terms. Because all of us up here also see the opposite of that, which is the phone call that we get from the adult daughter who's in a panic. Mom has to move. She can't go back home. Do you have a spot? That's crisis management, and nobody's having fun at that point. So my advice to all of you is, first of all, to commend you for being here, but do your homework. Figure out what's going to be right for you, and then make that decision on your own, on your terms. So then very simply, and both Laura and Sandy have talked about that entrance fee, that upfront buy-in. You pay an upfront amount similar to the cost of purchasing a new home. When you leave that independent living dwelling, however it is that you leave, whether you move to a higher level of care, whether you move to California because that's where your kids went, or whether you pass away, a portion of that entrance fee is refunded to you or to your estate. And then there are monthly service fees that are typically all-inclusive that cover all the services and amenities that are included with your residency in the community.
Perfect. Great. And we're going to have definitely time for questions at the end, too, because I'm sure you're going to have some. So Porter Hills Village just has a huge array of both independent and assisted living options that range from cozy studio apartments all the way up to luxury townhomes with 2-car garages. So what are some of the initial questions that you might ask a prospective resident who is considering a move to Porter Hills, but really to help them figure out where they would fit in your community?
So that's a great question, and I think when folks come to see us first, it's all about the real estate. So you all live in lovely homes or condos, and you have some idea of how much space you think that you need. And a lot of times when people come in, it's all about the space. How big are your apartments? How big are your townhomes? All of that. But the thing is, even though, as Sandy said, we have beautiful apartments, Freedom Village has beautiful dwellings, nothing that I have to show you is going to compare to the home that you live in. And I say that because you've built a life in that home. You have memories in that home, right? And so it would do me no good to sit there and tell you how awesome our apartments are if you don't want to move. And my guess is most of you would say, I don't want to move. So then why am I going to talk to you that way, right? Instead, I'm going to ask you, what do you want for the next chapter of your life? Laura actually talked about the 5 things, the 5 dilemmas that people have, and she said that moving to a community answers 4 of those. I'm going to push back on that and say that life in a community answers the 5th one as well, which is, what legacy do you want to leave? That's a big, deep question, right? And part of deciding to move to a retirement community is deciding that you want to pursue the things in life that bring you joy. Does it bring you joy to clean the leaves out of your gutters, or to mow your lawn, or to worry about the hot water heater that's making noises, which mine is doing right now? Or do you want to get back to something that maybe you used to do that you no longer do because you don't have time, or you don't have the resources, or you can't physically do it anymore? But there's a good chance that living in a community, you could have that opportunity again to pursue those things. So I am not answering Laura's question because when I sit down with you, I want to know who you are as a person. Because how arrogant would I have to be to just start telling you what a great place Porter Hills Village is when I don't know anything about you? I don't know what you want. I don't know what making a move like this would mean to you. Those are the things that I have to figure out. And then as a navigator, which is my role, it's to help you through that path. And Porter Hills Village or Cook Valley might not be the right place for you. Maybe Freedom Village is the place, or Samaritas. My role is to help you figure that out, to provide you with a lot of resources, show you what we have. Certainly, I have to do my job, but at the end of the day, if you choose us, I would be thrilled. But if you choose someone like Freedom Village, I would also be thrilled. So yes, we have great accommodations, a wide range of prices, and we can find something, hopefully, that would be of interest to you, but it's not all about that. It's about what you are looking for in this next chapter of your life.
Very, very well said. So often when I sit down with any of you or other clients in their homes, and we talk about this idea of senior living, we talk about this aspect of, with all of the great senior living communities, you know, yes, they are in competition with one another, and yet nothing rises to the level of competition as your own home. So that's really the biggest competition, bigger than any amenity or any beautiful apartment that any community can provide. It's that idea of what type of life do you want to live. So now one thing is, I understand that various buy-ins are applicable to residents moving into independent living, and that if one of your residents begins to need assistance, how does that work as they are transitioning to a different level? And is it possible to move to Porter Hills and skip independent living if you've got somebody that needs to move right into assisted living? And is there a buy-in in that case?
Yeah, great question. So I'll answer the last part first. We definitely have residents that come to us going directly into the higher levels of care. And there is no buy-in, there's no community fee. You are just paying for whatever level of care that you need. And this is where we have a great relationship with Care Patrol, Sandy and her team. We get a number of referrals from them for those higher levels of care. And I'm sure Sandy can attest to the fact that a lot of those are some kind of crisis situation, right? When people are coming to talk with us about independent living, it's folks like you in this room. You don't need any care right now. You're thinking ahead, right? You're planners. So you're making this decision before you need that higher level of care. But definitely, if someone is in need of assisted living or memory care or even skilled nursing, they can come directly to us as long as we have availability. Again, in a continuing care community, our first commitment is to our own residents. And ideally, our higher levels of care would be filled with our own residents. That's why people choose to come. Now, we do sometimes have vacancies in those areas, and then we can take what's called a direct admit. But that is also something for you to consider. I talk to people all day long, and many people, when they're talking to me about independent living, say, but I don't need to move right now. None of you need to move right now. The thing that's hard to wrap your head around is if you wait until you need to move because now you're needing more assistance or you're no longer driving, chances are that independent living is not going to be the right option for you. And something to realize is that our communities, again, our higher levels of care could and should be filled with our own residents, meaning you might not find a place where you can go for assisted living when you need it. And with those types of moves, again, as I said, with the referrals that Sandy sends us, people are typically in crisis mode. And especially if you end up in the hospital because you broke a hip or something, the discharge planner is literally going to hand you or your family a list of places and say, here you go, start calling. And usually it's your adult child is calling us, just going down the list, saying, my mom's being discharged in 2 days, and we don't know where she's going because she ain't coming to my house. And we do the best that we can to help in that situation, but sometimes we can't. Sometimes we have to say, I'm sorry, we do not have an opening, and we don't like saying that. But again, the whole point of a continuing care community is that you come in through independent living and you have those higher levels of care as you need them. I don't know, did I answer everything?
Yes, I think so. I think that is one of the most important points that I hope that everyone can bring away from this talk is that idea of the whole goal of independent living is to keep you healthy and to keep you out of the necessity of ever needing full nursing care. I think that so many people that I speak to, they have that fear. They've seen a parent or a grandparent that, went to full nursing care and that the cost was in excess of $10,000 a month, and they saw that parent or grandparent not even getting a level of care that they felt they were happy with, and most certainly that they felt was worth the $10,000 a month that they were paying. Well, the biggest way to avoid that is to be able to stay healthy. And as Amy had mentioned earlier, so often people start doing better once they are in a community simply because they don't have the same level of things that can trip them up. They're not walking outside to get the mail when it's icy. They're not going out to shovel. They're not trying to stand up on a ladder and change a light bulb or clean out the eaves. And so many of these things that you did for years and years successfully, and then all of a sudden one false move and it puts you in a situation where your health is changing rapidly. So all right, so one of the draws of moving into a community such as Porter Hills is certainly the vast array of amenities. So I've heard it compared to this idea of living every day like you once only did when you were on nice vacations. So tell us some of the things that your residents enjoy on a daily basis.
Well, I think Sandy already mentioned some of the amenities that communities have, and all communities have virtually the same types of amenities where you have access to restaurant quality meals. You have access to a fitness center and typically a swimming pool and a bocce court and art classes and educational programs. Again, all of those things, any one of us can go down that list and tell you all the great things, but it's not going to mean anything to you unless it's something that resonates with you. And more importantly, it's about what do those amenities, as they are called, what do they do for you throughout your life in community? And if I could just share, I know you talked about a book in the beginning, a wonderful book by Dr. Roger Landry is called Live Long, Die Short. Let me say that again. Live long, die short. What does that mean?
I have that book sitting
have
on
that
my,
book
that's
too.
on the next, one of my next lists.
That book was an outgrowth, if you will, of a study that was done by the MacArthur Foundation at part of the University of Michigan. And what they were studying were the longevity of older adults. And why do some older adults live a long, relatively healthy life and then die short? Whereas other older adults just have this slow digression until the end. What are the things that those seniors who age successfully, what are they doing? And the study found that there were 4 important things. The first is purpose and meaning in life. Why? A reason to get up in the morning, right? Because you have commitments. You said you were going to meet Ed for coffee at 9 o'clock and you're going to be there. Purpose and meaning. The second thing is socialization. Now, I poo-pooed socialization for a long time because, believe it or not, I'm an introvert. So socialization freaks me out. But when COVID hit, we all learned about the importance of socialization, didn't we? Because we were all isolated. And guess what? Isolation is bad for our health. So socialization is very, very important. The third thing that's needed is physical and mental stimulation. Now, that's not new to anybody, right? We hear about it on the news every day. Our doctors tell us we need to move more. But those things get harder and harder to do and to seek out as you age in place in your home. And the fourth thing is living in an environment that supports those other 3 things: a purpose, socialization, and mental and physical stimulation. Living in an environment. Well, what sort of environment do you think that is? Well, one sort of environment is moving to a retirement community, because those things are baked into life in community, right? As we get older, our social circle gets smaller, doesn't it? But what happens when you move into a retirement community, do you think? Boom, it goes like this. Because suddenly you're part of a community. There's socialization that's happening around you every day, even if you don't want it. Somebody's going to say, "How you doing today?" There's opportunities to keep your brain engaged, to keep your body moving. There's opportunities to continue to learn. So yes, we have all those great amenities, and those things, it turns out, are really important as we age.
And just the idea that most certainly some of those things can still be gotten when you live independently in your own home, they can just take a lot more effort. And as I talk to seniors on a regular basis, and even my family members, I hear about the effort that it sometimes takes to get yourself out of the house, and especially when it's colder, when it's icy, when it's dark, when I spoke with a senior yesterday who really wanted to be here today, but the friend that was going to drive them ended up having something come up and they don't feel comfortable driving. So all those little changes that all of a sudden, it's not that you can't do those things, it just takes a lot more effort. And by being in a community, it really takes away so many of the reasons that keep you from doing those things. Now, Brio Living really emphasizes its status as both a faith-based community and also a nonprofit. So tell us how that influences the day-to-day operations, and why should potential residents care about that?
Yeah, this I think is really an important and a key distinction. And all of you will have to determine if this matters to you or not as you are looking at all the various options in the greater Grand Rapids area, not-for-profit versus for-profit. Brio Living Services, Porter Hills, is a not-for-profit organization. I think the main difference is that we are mission-based. Well, what does that mean? That means that, as I said at the very beginning, we feel that our mission is to serve older adults as they age and to help you to age in the way that you want with the dignity that you deserve. What I didn't say was that our goal as an organization is to make money. Do we have to make money? Of course we do. We say, sometimes we have to have a margin in order to do our mission, okay? But we are not driven by our margin. We are not beholden to shareholders. I don't have to answer to someone saying, how come you don't have this number of residents filling your apartments because we're going to lose money this month? That's not the kind of conversations that we have. Our conversations in our meetings are talking about, are we meeting our mission? And so also, as a not-for-profit, any monies that are made in our communities are plowed right back into our communities. So I just said at the beginning that we just spent $9 million on renovations at Porter Hills Village. That's what a not-for-profit organization is doing, is putting money right back into the community to benefit the residents. I have worked in both. This has been my whole career now, about 35 years. I've worked for for-profit organizations and not-for-profit organizations. And for me personally, working for a not-for-profit is a much better fit for me, because I'm very passionate about what I do, and hopefully you all can see that. And that's a passion that you see in a not-for-profit organization. Now, both Sandy and Laura talked about the benevolent fund, and that's something that you typically find in a not-for-profit organization, where we say we're going to care for you for the rest of your life regardless of your ability to pay. If you outlive your assets through no fault of your own, we're not going to kick you out. If you go to a for-profit down the street, they're going to say, come on in. But if you can't pay, you can't stay. That's not our philosophy. That's not our mission. And we have a foundation that raises money for our benevolent fund so that we can continue to care for seniors as they age.
Great, thank you.